Hi, I'm Karen from Movement Improvement, and I'm just bringing you some stretches and mobility today so that we can release any of the tension from not moving so much during lockdown. So I've got here just easy stuff, you don't need any actual equipment. I've got a couple of cushions because my sofa is nice and comfortable, so that will just make my seat a bit firmer, sit me up a little bit, and I've got a scarf. Okay, so that's all you need really. So we're going to start, as I said, I've got the cushions just so I'm sitting up, not sinking into the seat too much. So when I sit here, I'm going to just put them sort of, not sitting on them properly, just sort of at the back of my hips. So it just sits me up a bit straighter. We're trying to get away from this posture, aren't we? So we're going to sit up nice and straight. All we're going to do to start with is just take the arms behind. So I've just taken my arms behind and stretched them out. From here, I want you to think about lifting your chest. So not about arching your back, keep your ribcage down, but lift your heart a little bit and draw your shoulder blades closer to each other. Now you can put your hands together and stretch your arms out. Or you can just reach. But just get used to that feeling of opening your chest. You can even take your arms wide. But as I say, it's very important that we're drawing the shoulder blades back and down. So we're not trying to just move the arms. It's not just this. We're really trying to draw those shoulder blades back. So feel that you're opening your heart. Now, if this is quite a strong stretch for you, if you're really feeling that, you just do it a few times. You don't hold it for very long. You release off. You go again. So you just play around with it so it feels right for you. Okay. Then we're going to get the scarf. As I said, that's all it is. It's just a scarf. I'm going to go quite wide holding this. So my hands are over the top. I'm drawing my shoulder blades down again, keeping my rib cage down. And as I lift up, I'm just drawing my shoulder blades a bit closer to each other. So I get a little bit of a stretch into the chest, sort of into the armpit area. And you can just play around with it. So this is a little bit different from just sort of standard stretches. We want to really move, because that's the problem. If your muscles are quite tight and they're not moving very much, stretching them actually is going to make them a little bit more stressed again. So we don't want your body to be really tight and you try and pull it and it tries to protect itself. So what we're going to do is just ease into that movement. So we're going to try all different positions on the scarf. Wider ones, remembering not to look at your hands but to think about the shoulder blades. So don't worry about where your hands and arms are going. Think about your shoulder blades joined together. Think about keeping your rib cage down and lifting up through your heart. So we're not just arching the back. Going to wherever you're comfortable, moving in and out. Just have a little play around with how it feels. Okay, now the next one, I'm going to take the scarf behind us. But this time, we've got the palms facing forward. So not this way, because we want to try and avoid this rolling of the shoulder, but palms facing forward, draw your shoulder blades together and lift up. I might even need to move my cushions a bit on this one. And again, try and draw your shoulder blades together. Go to different positions. And think of opening your chest. Yeah, so if you don't like all of them, if you find that really difficult, just stay with the first one. Just try and open the chest, lift your heart. Okay. So, don't need the scarf now. So what we're going to do now is try and keep the weight in both of your hips the whole way through this. So it's really easy just to lean over, but that's not changing anything through the body. So keep your hips still, and instead of thinking about where we're going, think about where you're moving. Yeah, so rather than worrying about how far you go, I want you to think of lifting this side of the rib cage And again, think about not being arched, but sitting back and sitting up. So this where the cushions, just under the back of the hips, can help you a little bit with that. So shoulders joined together. Try and lift the side of the rib cage. And it might help just to take that arm over the top. You can keep the other hand on the sofa. You might want to keep both hands down. You could put a hand on your shoulder, maybe lift the elbow. Oh, that feels nice. Lift that elbow up. So we're trying now, so as I'm going over this way, I want to really think about what this hip is doing, because if that lifts up, I'm not going to get such a good stretch. So I'm going to push this hip down into the seat as I lift my elbow. And I might even reach up with my hand. Push down with this hip and lift up. As if someone's pulling your arm. So not over and collapsing, really high. And down, lovely. So push down and lift up. Grow through the arm. Feel the side of that rib cage lifting up. And relax down. So only you can feel what's happening in your body. So you try and connect to how you feel and keep this so it's pleasant, not painful. Okay, now we're going to try and keep the hips absolutely still, and we're going to try and get some spinal movement. So the problem with sitting a lot is that the spine doesn't really move very much, and we really should have movement all the way through. So all of your vertebrae should have a little bit of movement, yeah? So that little bit of movement in every joint actually leads to quite a lot of movement overall. So it's better to have every joint doing a little bit of movement rather than some getting stuck and then other joints having to overwork, because then they're being really stressed and the rest isn't moving. So we're going to try and look at movement through areas that can get stuck a little bit here. So what we're going to try and do is try and get this bit to move side to side, but I want you to try and keep your hips quite heavy on that sofa, on that cushion. Now, if this bit is hard to move, what will happen is you will start to try and do something a bit similar. Not really similar, but your body will be trying to match that movement for you. So what we're going to try and do is really keep the hips still. Maybe put the hands on the rib cage and just think of getting that little bit of movement side to side. And then if you want to, you could try forward and back. That's a bit harder. So imagine your rib cage lifting at the front, lifting at the back. And this is really easy to hunch, isn't it? Keep them shoulders down. The stricter you are, the better the results will be. And now I quite really like this one, and it's quite nice, I think, sometimes to, because this is quite a hard movement, to try and imagine something. So if you can imagine your rib cage as like a lampshade and the light is underneath, inside, yeah? So we shine the light to the side, we shine the light to the other side, we shine it forward, we shine it back. And if you can imagine shining your light around the room, keep that weight in your sitting bones. So be gentle. If you know that you have a condition and you shouldn't be doing certain movements, don't do them. Yeah, be sensible. Listen to your body. There's nothing in here that is dangerous or controversial. These are just nice movements of the spine. So do them to your best ability. Please don't force anything. Okay, that's quite a tricky one. That feels lovely, but it is a tricky one. So maybe just stay. That was the first one, wasn't it? Do you remember? We just shifted from side to side. Yeah, so that's a good one. That's fine on its own. The rest is just icing on the cake. So we're going to do a few more. So what we're going to do now is try and rotate. So Remember I was saying to you about the different joints in the spine. All those vertebrae should move. They don't move much, but they should all move. So what we're going to try and do is get a little bit of rotation, but we're going to try and get it as high as possible. What tends to happen with rotation is we're just trying to move one bit and we focus too low down a lot of the time. So we're going to try and just get this gradual rotation. So it's not about being perfect, it's just about getting a little bit more movement and not stressing or forcing anything. So I want you to imagine you're growing taller up through the back of your head, and I want you to push your sitting bones down into your cushion and really feel that you've lengthened through the back of your body. So you're pushing down and you're pulling up. We're going to take one arm out, and then we're going to try and imagine that somebody is pulling this arm, so that we're going to twist right at the top. Keep that weight really heavy in your sitting bones. Think of rotating between the shoulder blades. So this bit of your spine, think of trying to move all the way down. Yeah, so don't get excited about what the arm's doing. Just imagine someone's pulling and you're going to twist round towards the other hand. And come back. And because it's a bit tricky to get that one right sometimes, we're going to do it again. So we're going to stay on that side so you get to practice it. Twist, 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 twist. Yes, it's not trying to go as far as possible. In fact, I don't know how well you can see that, but if I go as far as possible, I'm twisting quite far down. Let's try and make it gradual. Let's try and creep it down the spine. And that I can feel much more. I can feel that right around my spine. So we're trying to get to the little muscles all around the spine and get them to work so that we have better movement of the spine. And the more you do this, the more you practice, the better your movement and mobility will become. You're going to get a little bit of shoulder movement, but it's not about your shoulder moving on its own. Can you see that's rotating round? Let's try the other side. So I'm just putting that arm out, twisting round as high as I can, pushing down into my hips. Oh, that feels nice. And then you could, if you wanted to, go from one to the other side. Remember, slowly think of the movement creeping down your spine. Don't try and do it all in one go. Gradual movement. That's good. I might do another one each side. That feels nice. Great. Okay. So sitting down and collapsing has a kind of knock-on effect. It's not just about your back. It's also about the neck and around the hips. So everything kind of gets affected, yeah? So what we're going to try and do here is stretch out through the side here. Reason being is if you're sitting like this, your head then starts to come forward and these get quite tight, all this tissue and muscle in here. So we're going to try, as I said before, we've got that to sit us up. We're going to sit back. We're going to relax the shoulders. I'm going to try and reach down under my cushion on the sofa here. So it gives me a little bit of something to pull about against, yeah? A little bit of a pulling, stretching into this side. So I'm going to keep my shoulders back, my chin in. I'm going to take this ear down and the other ear up towards the ceiling. And already that feels quite tight. Now that is a nice stretch, there's nothing wrong with that. But what we're going to do is improve that stretch by contracting the muscle we're stretching. So this is really good if you've got a muscle that's in some sort of low level spasm. So if you've had this tight neck for a long time, it probably is in a little bit of spasm. So what we're going to do is stretch. Remember, lift your ear. Shoulders back and down. I can feel that stretch, that's lovely. And I'm going to try and pull up as if I'm doing that, as if I'm trying to pull the cushion. I'm going to really tuck my hand under there. So you might need to play around, try different chairs in your house till you find one that's kind of got the right arm length. So I'm pulling up. So that's your contraction. So I'm trying to pull up like that. But I'm keeping the stretchy position. Oh, that feels lovely. So a little bit of stretch with a little bit of contraction. They kind of match each other. It's not a hard stretch, it's not a hard contraction. Make sure you're breathing while you're doing this. Everything's easier when you breathe. Don't hold your breath. You do that for about 20 seconds and then release off. Roll your shoulders. So don't do it too hard. If this hurts afterwards, if you're thinking, oh my goodness, I've really stretched that, just do it a little bit less, yeah? Don't be quite as vigorous with the whole thing. So let's do the same again. So like I said, it's better to keep doing it and releasing and repeating than trying to do a really hard hold for a long time, yeah? Just see if you can do it gentle. A little bit of a stretch, a little bit of a contraction. Roll those shoulders afterwards. I'm going to do about 4 of these. Oh, it's starting to feel a bit better now. Let's just do one more. So reaching under, a little bit of a stretch, feel that, and I'm pulling a bit now. Making sure rib cage is down, shoulder blades are back. Oh, lovely. So I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. Just shuffle over a bit. Okay, so shoulders back, pulling, coming over, and get that little bit of tension. So remember, if it's tight, don't try and arch your back. Just make the stretch smaller. It doesn't need to look big, you just need to feel it. So we've got a little bit of a pull up with that lengthening at the same time. Good. So remember to sit back, shoulders back, pull, tip, lift that ear a bit, pull a bit more with the arm. Try and match them so they're about the same tension. So the stretch and your contraction are very similar. You've not got a really strong stretch and a little contraction, or a really strong contraction without much stretch. Kind of match them. Always just give them a little bit of movement when you've finished. Oh, that feels good. Lovely. You do one more. So about 3 or 4. You just want to feel the tensions releasing. Like I said, if this is really hard for you to do, because these can get very tight, be a bit more gentle. Maybe start with a very slight stretch. Maybe just do it a couple of times and leave it. Lovely. Okay. So the next one, we're going to try and release some tension around the hips. So we're going to use the similar thing to what we've just done. So we're going to have a little bit of tension and a stretch. So what we're going to do here is we're going to try and take, and you might need to play around with the positioning of your chair, we're going to try and take one leg across the other. If this is hard for you to do, just start by getting some sort of position, some sort of stretch, just sort of play around with it. You are trying to aim to get one leg across. And what we're going to try and do here is push down very slightly. So I'm applying a little bit pressure downwards, but at the same time I'm pulling this up into my hand. So this is pushing and this is pushing, and they're pushing against each other. So it is quite hard on the sofa. So like I say, you might need to go around your house and have a little look at what's the best chair to use. So pushing down, pushing up. Nice little technique this for releasing spasm and tension in muscles. So again, we do that for about 20 seconds. We release it off, we come back in. So the push is a knee to hand, hand to knee. Nice and gentle, they're not massive amounts of force, it's not a huge stretch and it's not a huge push either. Again, don't forget to breathe. So we're going to do about 4 of these. Push and push. So just relax everything else. Make sure you're not tensing your neck again or tensing your shoulders. So try and adapt these so they work for you. So if you're struggling with a position, you get as close to that as you can. And it might be that you need to just play around with the position until you're in a position that suits you better. So it might not be perfect, but if you're feeling a little bit of a stretch, then that's a good thing. So as I said, they're about 20 seconds, about 4 times, and we're going to do both legs. So across if you can, push down, push up. Take your time, breathe. Just resting down in between. So you can time them. I'm not timing them today, so feel free to pause the video so that you can time them if you want to. I just want to show you one more hip release and mobility after this. So out of all of them, I'd say this one's probably the only one that you might have to think about whether it's suitable for you. And that's simply because the next one we'll be doing will be on our knees. So if your knee is really uncomfortable, you might be able to do it sitting on the sofa. We'll have a go and see if we can improvise a bit. You might need to put a cushion under your knee, that's fine, but obviously don't do anything that hurts you. So the next one, if you can see, sitting, this area gets very compressed. So what we're going to try and do is open that area out. So depending on, my sofa's quite good for this actually, but depending on how your sofa is and if you've got things to lean on, so I've got my hand on the table over here, so you could just open out. Now what I don't want you to do when you do this, I'm going to show you 2 ways to do it wrong. What I don't want you to do is be doing it with your bottom sticking out, so that is still quite compressed. Yeah, if I come here and tuck my bottom under, can you see that's opened it out more than doing that? So that's quite small, that lengthens it a little bit. It's quite hard to see, but have a go. If you do it wrong, stick your bottom out, you'll feel it change. If you come forward, you'll feel it stretch. So don't be too brutal with it. So we're going to try here. So I'm actually on my knee a bit more now, so you might be able to do it on your sofa, you might not. I'm going to try and stay lined up. So knee, hip and shoulder in a straight line, and tuck the bottom under, you'll get a bit of a stretch. So here, tucking under. So we're just doing a little movement. Trying not to go out to the side. So you might find if you're got a little bit of tension in your lower back that you might actually go out to the side rather than tucking under. And tuck under and hold. And then release about halfway and go forward. So this is where we started. Moving into it. Really nice and gentle. Be kind. So it's a nice way to open up through the hip. But bear in mind, you've been sitting down quite a lot. That is going to be quite tight, yeah? So what you could try is the tuck under. So remember what we did with the neck one and what we've just done with the hip. You could try a little bit of a stretch and then imagine that you're going to lift your legs, so you're contracting a little bit at the same time. So that could be quite a nice way to release off. And then release. And then tuck under. And then I'm imagining, I mean there's weight in my knee so I can't do it, but I'm imagining I'm trying to lift my knee a bit. And that's putting more tension into there, but I'm still in a stretch position. Let's try that again. So I'm going to tuck under and I'm trying to lift my knee. Remember to breathe, don't hold your breath. And release. We'll try one last one. So tuck and try and lift that knee. So I'm trying to pull it forward. So if that feels like, if you feel like that's making you arch your back, or you feel tension in the back of your thigh and something feels uncomfortable, don't do that bit. Yeah, you could just do the mobility. You could be doing the tucks and releases. Yeah, you don't have to do that. So we're going to come to the other side now. So we're tucking and releasing, tucking and releasing. So this is my tighter side. And we're just easing forward. Remember what I said about not sticking your bum out? That won't do anything really to stretch this. Tuck under, ease forward. Be kind. Ease forward. Oh. A little bit of tension in there. Oh, that's what we're trying to do though, isn't it? Find that tension and release it off. So they are the stretches and movements that I would choose to try and help you get rid of that seated, I'm stuck in a chair posture. So let me know how you get on. Have a little play with them. Like I say, listen to your body. And I hope they help. Stay safe, everyone.